Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope you all had a lovely, restful weekend. And we're out of the full moon craziness and out of 4th of July craziness. I'm sure we have some new craziness. I have faith in our humans' ability to create craziness at any given time. So we still have lots of retrogrades going on, including Mercury. So Mercury actually, Mercury went direct yesterday. Praise the Lord, Mercury. Right on. So Mercury is out of retrograde. Pluto is still in retrograde. Saturn is in retrograde. Jupiter is in retrograde. Mercury, thank goodness I am crossing Mercury off my retrograde list. There were so many planets in retrograde, I had to make a list. That's just sad. So we're crossing Mercury off. Mercury came out of retrograde. Huzzah! Just yesterday. So, but Neptune popped right in. Neptune is in retrograde. So Neptune is going to go retrograde until Thanksgiving. So super exciting. Okay. So there is still a lot going on up there. One of the things that we had talked about, one of the things that I talk about a lot is the fracturing between the dark and the light. And we have talked before about the rising of the light, and with the rising of the light comes the rising of the dark. And so that's where we've been in. That's where we are in. This was all sort of rumbling beneath the surface. And so when came time for the 2016 election in this country, we saw that kind of boil over, the rising of the light and the rising of the dark. This now came to set these sides free. My dog lives in my desk drawer. Toby, such a sweetie. So he lives in my desk drawer. So if you see these moving around, this is what's going on over there. So we've seen the rising of the light. We've seen the rising of the dark. So the light was rising for quite some time. And then we have the rising of the dark. And you have to have both, okay? Yin and yang, black and white, bad, good and bad. I don't ascribe so much to evil because I feel like even dark things, even negative things serve a purpose. And so I don't always ascribe to, that's just evil. There's malice, there's malicious intent, which is different, but evil, I just have a hard time with that one. I do believe that it's that there are important things that are going on in the universe, and I do believe that we don't always understand all of it. And I do believe that you have to have the dark in order to have the light, and that the dark is not always bad. Okay? Many, many, many times we can look back at things that have happened to us or for us through our lives and see that things were difficult or challenging or were sorry, I don't know what I just did. I just clicked on something. Okay. So many times we can sorry, I clicked on something and everything popped up on my screen. So many times we can have experiences that happen to us or for us is a much better way to look at it in our lives and think this is a bad thing, this is a bad thing, this is evil, this is bad, this is terrible, and not be able to give ourselves the opportunity to see it for the blessing that it may be. So for me, because I'll speak from my personal experience, that we had fought with Bank of America for about 3 years, and you can read this whole story on my blog post on my blog. But we fought with Bank of America when the housing crisis was happening in this country. We got stuck in the middle of that. Bank of America owned our mortgage, and we were doing a refi with them when the housing bubble burst. And they were also merging with Countrywide at that same time, and they lost us in the system for about 6 months, and we kept paying our mortgage and they kept taking the money, and then they got their systems all sorted out, and they decided that we had not paid them all this money and they were going to foreclose on us. And it took 3 years of fighting with them to get it straightened out. 3 years. And they were relentless. They would call my house on my cell phone from about 8:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, pretty much all day, every day, like every 30 or 45 minutes, the collections department would call us, except Sundays. And they would call every single day. And it was very difficult for me to get anything else done because they were constantly calling. And every time I would block one call, they would call from another number. And anytime I could get somebody on the phone, they were just horrible and mean and angry because they were the collections department. And in their mind, I was the criminal. And eventually we were able to get some people on the phone that could see that we had been making the payments and that the payments had been miscredited, but they can't see that until they can verify your account. And so when they call you, they immediately just assume the worst until they can verify who you are, and they go into your account and they can look at it, and then they go, oh, and then they become all nice. So this went on for 3 bloody years, and the toll it took on my mental health was just, ridiculous. But in the end, after it was finished, and ultimately it was a gentleman in the president's office. I mean, we went all the way to the president of Bank of America. That's how, long this took and how much it escalated. Congressmen, lawyers, the whole thing. So it was a guy named Iggy in the president of Bank of America's office who looked at the situation, said, oh, I see it, and click, 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 and it was done. It was over. But a few years later, the Justice Department decided that Bank of America and Wells Fargo and some other banks that had really been predatory on people during this time, because Bank of America was out there foreclosing on properties they didn't even own. So they decided that they had to make restitution to all of these people that they had messed with. And so we had a second mortgage, and at that time it was $85,000, and all of a sudden that was wiped out. $85,000 just poof. And after that point, it became a reality for my husband and I to look at our mortgage and say, first of all, we need to refinance away from these people. But second of all, to be able to say, we have a very real possibility now of being able to pay off our house in our lifetime and being able to own our home outright with no mortgage, with an extra $85,000 of debt that probably was a little bit more of a reach. And what an unbelievable blessing that was. And so we did refinance and leave Bank of America and got a great mortgage with a wonderful company. And we've been super, super happy, and a lower interest rate and all these wonderful things that came from that horrible thing that happened. That when we were in it, we were looking at it saying, this is horrible. Why is this happening to us? And at the same time, we were able to know enough that there had to be a reason somewhere, somehow. There was going to be a reason, because the universe always has our back. The universe always knows a better plan for us, and the universe is always doing things to help us, even when we can't see it. So when crazy things are happening and we immediately go to, why is this happening to me? It's actually, this is happening for me. So let me bring it back around to the rising of the light. So we have the rising of the light, we have the rising of the dark, and we have to have them both. We can't have one without the other. We can't have sunrise without sunset. We can't have sunset without sunrise. We have to have both in order to have balance in the world, balance in the earth, balance in the energy. Okay, so it is understanding that all these crazy things with the virus, with politics, with the environment, with so many planets going retrograde, all these things are part of a grander scheme of cogs in the universe moving to help bring us to a better place and to blessings that we are not yet aware of that are coming. And so what I want to say to you as somebody who lives, thanks, Serena, as somebody who lives in Florida, and, with 15, almost 16,000 new cases yesterday, and Disney World open, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I know it's frustrating. And people are stupid. There is a restaurant very near where I live that is touting itself as, mask-free zone, and they're giving away, free meals to patriots, and they're doing all these things to really flout the system and really and I know people have a lot of opinions about wear a mask, don't wear a mask, but I feel like they are intentionally creating an environment for people to put themselves in harm's way. People they're not twisting anybody's arm to go there, but it's interesting because there was a huge kerfuffle there just recently because the ATF went in. And you can actually see this on my personal Facebook page. The ATF went in, and this guy from South Florida was up there, hassling, and like, why are they here? Why are you here hassling these people? When it turned out, and they were all up in arms about this, mask-free zone, when it actually turned out that the owner of the restaurant was serving alcohol to minors, and that was why the ATF was in there to take their liquor license. And the people made this big, huge thing about, why are they harassing them when actually, she was doing something illegal. So I think it's very, very easy for us to look at a situation and say, why is this happening? And this must be a bad thing. On the surface, this looks like a bad thing. But when we can take a little bit of time to dig a little deeper and allow the universe the benefit of the doubt, it's amazing the transitions that we can create in our lives. And when we started to understand that, things shifted in our world in a way that we could never have even predicted or understood before our battle with Bank of America. And again, that's on my blog post on my website if you want to read more about it at sharidworkinsmith.com. But it taught us such a valuable lesson that every single thing that happens in our lives and around us happens because we have invited that into our lives, and it is there for a purpose, okay? And I tell people all the time, there is no good or bad. It is what is happening for us to move us to another place, to shift our trajectory on the path. Now, it's up to you whether you are willing to shift or not. And a lot of times we just dig in our heels and we just are change resistant. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to, and we don't want to hear about it. My older son is a bit more change resistant. He doesn't like to try new things. He doesn't like to try new foods. And I said, here, you like peas? Try pea pods. And he's like, nope, that's not peas. I'm not eating it. I'm like, the little things inside of it are the peas. Like, nope, not eating it. The younger son's a bit more adventurous. He's like, well, I'll try it. What's the worst that happens? And plus, I'm your mother. Am I really going to steer you wrong? If it was yucky, I wouldn't give it to you. So I just think it reminds me that when I see them, and it makes me smile, and it reminds me that we can choose to go through our path and go on our path like, no, this is where I'm going, and I'm going. And when we are resistant to the universe will come along. And if you've heard me talk about the cosmic bitch slap, the universe will come along and go, hey, you have to move. Hey, you have to shift. Hey, you have to move. Hey, you have to move. And if you are not paying attention and you remain intractable and you remain with the blinders, this knocking is going to become the cosmic bitch slap. And then you're going to be flat on your butt looking at the universe going, what the hell just happened? And how come you didn't tell me this? And where were all the signs? Except the signs were there the whole time, but we were not willing to see them. So I want to encourage you again that even though it seems like things are going a little bit crazy out there, everything is shifting in alignment. It's like one of those games where you have to shake it up and the marbles will bounce into their respective spots. You have to shake it up first in order to get the marbles to get into the right spot so you can win the game, right? Those little handheld things where the marble has to drop into a little hole. So we're in the shaking up right now. We are definitely in the shaking up, but that doesn't mean that we're in trouble, okay? We need some leadership, but the universe, no matter what the human leaders are doing, The universe knows the plan, and the universe has the plan. And I love this analogy. I'm going to tell you this one more thing before we pull out some cards. I love this analogy of the tapestry. I have a tapestry hangs in my house that my parents brought back from, I think it was from Peru. It's beautiful. It's got these three girls and the front of it, and it's hand woven, and it's just really beautiful piece of art. And I love looking at it, and especially because I know what the front looks like. It's perfect, not a stitch out of place. And on the back, it's a holy mess. It's a holy mess. It's got threads going everywhere, knots, stuff tied off. It's not pretty on the back. But that's where we are with the universe. The universe has this beautiful tapestry that they are looking at, and we're looking at the back, and we're going, the heck is going on with that? But they're seeing the picture. We're not seeing the picture. And I love that analogy because it reminds me every single day that everything that is happening for us. It is not happening to us. It is happening for our highest and best good, even when it does not feel like that. I will tell you, the 3 years I fought with Bank of America were among the hardest of my life, but it absolutely came only to blessing in 1,000 different ways that I cannot even begin to tell you how every single aspect of my life was blessed because of that horror show that they put me through. And it was awful, but so many, many blessings in every aspect of my life came out of that trauma. So when you're looking around and you read the news, and first of all, stop that. But when you're looking around and you're reading the news and you're looking and seeing what's going on, especially right now, if you've got kids, you know, with the discussion about opening schools or not, it makes me want to vomit. But I know that everything happens for our highest and best good. And I trust that we have the ability to make decisions for our best good, and that when we tap into the universe and we allow the universe to push us and nudge us gently and guide us, we avoid that cosmic bitch slap, and we stay in the light and stay on the path that the universe intended for us and that we intended for ourselves when we came here to incarnate into this particular body. So with all that said, no matter what kind of banana stuff is going on out there, whether it's in the retrogrades or in the governments or with the virus, which is very, very scary, we are still being set up for blessing when we allow the universe to work on our behalf and we stay in that place of gratitude. And I know that's not always easy, but I want to tell you that we do have control to a point to make good choices to protect ourselves and our loved ones, and to just trust in the universe, that the universe, you're not saying the universe has got your back. It is not just a platitude. It is the truth. The universe has our back. And the more we can lean into that and lean into the universe and trust that the universe is with us, the more we are going to get blessing and the more abundance is going to come into our lives. So it is really that simple. It is not simple to do. It is simple to say. It's simple to understand. It's not always simple to live it in. Okay, some days, there are days when we are just like, really? But give it some space, give it some time, ask the question, what is it the universe is trying to show me here? What is it the universe is trying to shift me towards? Where is the universe trying? What is the universe trying to get me to see? And if you can work in cooperation, it becomes a much easier ride. Okay, we can choose to stay on that, you know, bumpy dirt road in an old rickety carriage with no shock absorbers, or we can choose to roll on beautiful new roads that are constructed and smooth with great shock absorbers. It's up to us. Okay, but staying in conjunction with the universe makes a huge difference. So that is what they've asked me to share with you today. As you know, I don't always I rarely ever plan what I'm going to say to you. I just let them work through me to share whatever they feel needs to be shared today for our collective wisdom, from their collective wisdom, and to be able to share whatever that they put on my tongue to share out with you. So we're going to start with our goddess today. I've been loving staying connected with Colette Baron-Reid's Goddess Power Oracle. I think this is absolutely a beautiful deck. The artwork is spectacular. These goddesses are amazing, and the information is just fantastic. So I've been loving tapping into the goddesses each week to be able to share that wisdom with all of you. And so the first card that the goddess that I've picked today is Rhea. Rhea, and if you look on the bottom, Rhea's word is flow, which, you know, and we come back to the same thing week after week. You literally can't make this stuff up. And so with Rhea, let's see if I can move with Rhea, and her word is flow. So isn't that incredibly perfect? Because that's literally what we were just talking about, being in flow with the universe. So she says, do you notice how when you're in alignment with the universe, everything in your life just seems to flow? The Greek goddess Rhea, whose very name means flow and ease, comes to let you know that you're entering such a time. While the flow state is not permanent for most people, it's a beautiful feeling that allows you to lose yourself in the rhythm. And if you're traveling down a magic it's as if you're traveling down a magic stream where ideas and insights pour through you from a vast source of information that is gifted to you. The way that you ensure that you remain in this beautiful energy as long as you can is to observe your life with relaxed attention, listening to the guidance presented to you as you move forward without restraint or fixed ideas. You can enter the flow state at any time that you are willing to release your expectation. It requires trust to move through that. I love that. I love that. I love when the universe continues to pull cards for us that make like exact sense of everything we were just talking about. This is why, for me personally, I choose to bring in channeled information first and to share the cards with you afterwards, because I feel like the cards always just know, and if I trust the universe to just share the information that they've asked me to share with you, it all comes out right. And then the cards come in the secondary as the absolute proof and the reminder that they are paying attention and they are listening. And I just love that ability to be able to say, look, look. Now, we did have a jumper because I looked down after I moved Rhea off to the side, and here's Demeter. Demeter, and she is the nurturer. And let's see what she has to say, because I didn't realize that we had a jumper until I went to pick up. And so Demeter, let's see, I don't know that I've worked with her before. It says giving to others is a wonderful feeling. When you have a healthy sense of yourself, you want to share your love, your inspiration, your experience, and the exchange feels clean. Your boundaries are fluid yet strong. The Greek goddess of grain, motherhood, and the harvest, Demeter, reminds you that a harvest is meant to be shared. You've now tapped into her nurturing love, which is abundant, and your well-meaning gestures will be received with gratitude and in some way returned to you tenfold. Oh, I love this. I love this because I know where this is coming from, and I thank you for being here. I know where this is coming from. So you may know that I volunteer my time in one of the natural springs in a state park that's not close to my home, about an hour away, to protect the manatees. And I had the beautiful experience of meeting a mama that I've met before and her new baby this weekend in the springs. And while I was there, I was so privileged to meet a young couple that came kayaking over when there was nobody else around, and we were able to just sit and talk and enjoy. And I couldn't help but notice that the young man was wearing a Trump 2020 hat. And it's not easy, it's not hard to jump to the conclusion with me that I am not a Trump supporter. But we had just a lovely conversation, and it was just a privilege to get to know them and to understand a bit more about their positions, and where we had common ground, which was right there in the springs, because the gentleman came in and said, I love this place. And we talked about the need for it to be protected and to protect our beautiful places in the Florida environment that are so unique and that are so incredibly important to our manatees and other wildlife. And so we had a really wonderful conversation because we both came from the place of love and not the place of you must be wrong or evil because you're wearing a hat that I don't agree with. And so again, it comes from all that we are sending out into the universe will always come back into us, and that when we trust the universe that there's a reason that things are happening for us and not to us, that everything will move smoothly. And this was such a beautiful encounter that I had with this young man and his friend, to be able to, not to change anyone's mind, but just to prove that there are nice people on both sides. Because I was involved in a conversation, a thread on my cousin's page, and she's very much anti the mask thing. And you know, her opinion, she is right, you know, has every right to it. And it was really, hi Robin. And it was really interesting to watch her post her opinion on her page. And then the people who disagreed with her were very polite. And then other people were very, very negative. And then to, you know, be engaged in that and to have someone, you know, and she came out and she said, why do people have to attack each other? Why can't people be nice? Why can't we be respectful? And in my comment, one of her followers had, you know, proven her point by being very, you know, responding in a very rude way to me. And I said, hey, if you are paying any attention, this is what she's talking about. And she's talking about people being very rude to each other. So, you know, thanks for proving the point. And I just thought, it's so interesting. I think that we have such a unique opportunity, especially as the light bringers. And we've talked about before about the responsibility of being a light bringer. And if you're here, you're a light bringer. And that we have this important responsibility to bring love and to lead with love and to show love. We don't have to love that person, but we don't have to be a jerk, okay? That we lead with love. I do not like the current president of the United States, but I also don't have to be rude, okay? I do not like, I can't think of anybody right now that I don't like besides, oh, well, I mean, Mitch McConnell. I mean, it's the same shoe. You know, we don't have to be obnoxious. Oh, so, well, yeah, he was kind of rude. I mean, you know, people are going to be rude. People are going to be jerks. But we don't have to stoop to that level. We can stay in the place of love. We can stay in the place of leading with love. And either they're going to understand that love, you know, that they're being stupid, or they're going to just continue along in the way that they are going, which of course is going to lead them to the cosmic bitch slap. So I trust the universe, not just for my own benefit, but also for the realignment of others. And a lot of people call that karma. So, but again, understanding that karma is not instant. The universe is not instant. We've talked about that before. It can be. It absolutely can be. I have seen the universe work miracles in 20 minutes. But it is often something that takes time because it's a big universe and there's a lot going on out there. But to just remember that our responsibility in understanding that we need, light needs dark and dark needs light, that it's still our responsibility to be the ones to bring the light and to live in the light and to share the light. Because while we need both, what we don't need is war between, and we don't need strife. And you can have light and dark and yin and yang and two different opinions without strife. And so that's where the love comes in. That is so important for us to lead with love. So apparently I was meant to tell you that too. So that comes from Demeter, goddess of nurturing. And so our job as the light bringers is to remind others that it's safe to be kind and it's safe to be respectful, because so many people have gotten the impression that if you don't agree with me, you're immediately a threat and you're going to attack me. Uh-oh, my camera pooped out. Somebody give me a thumbs up that I'm still there. So just because we may not agree on every single thing, because nobody's going to agree with you on everything. Even my husband, my children, they don't agree with me on everything. But just because we don't agree does not make us a threat. My camera says it's on. I can't see it on the screen, but we've seen that happen before. So if you get a minute, send me a comment that just says, yes, I'm here. I can see you. You're still here. So I don't feel like I have completely abandoned you, and I will pull our cards. So interesting. I hope you can see this. So this is the first card, is Star Mother. And I love this because underneath of it, it says you can mother yourself. How can you mother yourself? And this reminds us that self-care is so very important. So Mercury retrograde is over, and it's so very important. And thank goodness, the Mercury retrograde is over. But it's so important with all of the drama that is heating up out there, and it's going to be more before it gets better. We're seeing the numbers go up. We're seeing this debate about schools opening coming on. We're seeing the debate about whether the states are going to open or close, and some things are closing and some things are opening. And all of this is going to continue to heat up as we move forward towards the next US election. But self-care is so important. So first of all, turn off the news. Second of all, you can get news in, thank you. You can get news in many other places without having to absorb that energy. But make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because we cannot do that job of being the light bringers and sharing love and leading with love if we're tired and cranky and dehydrated and undernourished because we're eating junk food and not getting enough sleep. So look at where you can mother yourself, and make sure that you are taking care to, would you allow your child to do that? I saw something that I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about when kids were when I was young, the average age that children would be allowed to go out alone, like in New York City, to go out alone. Thank you, Katya. Thank you. The average age was 6 years old. So when I was a child, the average age before Adam Walsh and kidnapping and all of that became so terrifyingly real, the average age for unattended children to roam the streets of New York and go to the park by themselves was 6 years old. Now that just, I can't even comprehend that. My kids are, 19 and 22, and they can go do what they want, but I still want to know where they are, and I still want them to check in. But the average age now is like 11, 12 years old for kids to go out and have independence and do stuff. And okay, that may be a little bit. And the whole point of the conversation was talking about helicopter moms and how we've shielded our kids that they can't think for themselves. And I don't think that that's true. But being able to, I think 6 is probably a little on the other end of the extreme. But I think it's really important for us to keep these things in mind, that the world that I grew up in at 6, 7, 8 years old, a kidnapping, and I always remember the Adam Walsh story because it happened in my neighborhood. And if you've seen the television show America's Most Wanted with John Walsh, his son, Adam, was abducted when he was about, I think Adam was about 9 years old. And they lived 2 streets away, and I would see Adam at the playground. So, we knew them, and, he was taken from the local shopping mall. They found him. It was a terrible, terrible story, but it was the first big, huge, high profile child kidnapping. And unfortunately, in the world that we live in now, it's all too common. And, there's just human trafficking has become a whole industry that didn't exist when I was a child, and, or at least not in the same way. And so it's a much different world. And so to say that we've done something wrong because we have, parents that are being overprotective of their children, I think it's a very different world that we live in right now. And I think that we need to hold that in mind. But in that, we have to think of ourselves in that same way. How would you allow yourself, your child, a 6 or 7 year old child, would you allow them to watch the news? Would you allow them to stay up to watch, all the talk show, pundits and talking heads? Would you allow them, or would you insist they took a nice relaxing bath and had a good nutritious dinner and had a good night's sleep? And so we insist on these things, hopefully some of them, for our own children, but we forget about them for ourselves. And so being able to nurture, because here Demeter came up to remind us the importance of nurturing, not just ourselves, but of those around us. But then the star mother comes back in and says, yes, go nurture the other people, but don't forget to nurture yourself too. This is really important not to forget to nurture yourself too. So then we have Pleiades, and this comes in the realignment position, the alignment position. So it's upside down. And so this is Pleiades, and Pleiades says, you have a double mission of channeling and uplifting humanity. And this is really everything that we were just talking about, how we have an obligation to lead with love. But here it is in the alignment position being upside down, which means we're kind of forgetting that we have that responsibility. And we talk so much about the whole mask thing, and it isn't just about wear a mask because it protects yourself and others, when we hear about, flying on airplanes. Put the mask on yourself before assisting others. There is always the expectation of assisting others, of being an active part of a community, of being part of a society. If you're not part of a society and you live on a mountain in, out in Mongolia or wherever in the Himalayas, and you live by yourself, okay. But most of us, we live in community. We live in a family unit, a neighborhood, a city. We live in a community, and we do have an obligation to ourselves and to others. So put the mask on yourself before assisting others, but the assumption is, and the directive is, you will be helping others. And so when we tend to get very inner focused, which can happen with so many planets in retrograde and so much stuff bombarding us from outside with the news, and just it can be very overwhelming. So we come back to Star Mother that says, hey, take care of you. Okay, put your mask on yourself before you help put your mask on other people. But don't forget your obligation that you do need to be able to put your mask on other people. Okay, and then, oh yeah, I remember that too. And then remember also, I was going to say something. Oh, remember also that there was a very famous Jewish quote, a Hebrew text that said, we're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are we free to ignore it. So it's not to us to fix the entire world, but it's also not for us to just go, well, I can't do anything, so I'm not going to do anything. And last week I told the story of the starfish, right? With all the starfish on the shore, and the small child throwing them back one at a time, and the one person coming along going, what are you doing? You can't make a difference. Look at these hundreds of starfish. And the child looked at the starfish and said, well, it makes a difference to this one, and it throws it back. So we can make a difference one at a time. And that, of course, goes back to me and my ripples on the pond. I love to talk about the ripples on the pond, where she threw the starfish in the water, or and they made ripples in the water, and she made a difference. That child made a difference, and now that starfish can make a difference for others, and we make those ripples. When I do something that causes energy ripples to come out to you, like being here, you're being here, so you're rippling in my energy and I'm rippling in yours, and we cavitate off of each other, and we expand that out, and we bless others, and we expand the light, and we cavitate, and we bring others into that fold by sharing the light. So let's remember that we are not obligated to fix all of it. We're not obligated to complete it, but let's not forget our responsibility in being part of it. Okay. And so then our last, okay. So in our last, oh my goodness, the cards just amaze me every single week. So our last card is Lemuria. And Lemuria was heaven on earth. This was a utopian society that was said to exist here on earth in a previous incarnation of humanity, like with Atlantis and Lemuria. And so Lemuria is still coming. It's still coming. It's still coming. It says it is happening. Lemuria is still being created. But as the earth was created by the rumbling and the earthquakes and the creating of the mountains, we are in the rumbling. We are in the creating. We are in the shifting to create the new Lemuria. So it is happening. It is coming, although it is not an easy ride on that earthquake while we work our way through all of this. So we had our first card with our beautiful goddess Rhea to remind us that we are in flow, and to say, hi Claudette, and to stay in flow. And that we can, when we tune into the universe and we allow the universe to guide us and to help us, that we are staying in flow. And this was all about trusting the universe that we talked about in the beginning of our time together. And then we came into Demeter, who was a bonus card, who wanted to make sure she was heard today. Demeter was talking all about nurture and how we nurture, and we have an obligation to share the light, be the light bringers, and nurture others, and help to treat them with kindness, and to lead with love, and to bring others to the light. Even though we are having the rising of all of this noise of dark, it's getting louder because it's getting smaller. It's getting louder because the people who are clinging tightly to that path are scared. And so we don't do well to beat a small scared puppy or child. We do well to love them and to encourage them and nurture them and let them know that everything is okay and everything is going the way it should go, that all things are falling into place. And so here comes Star Mother to remind us that we must nurture ourselves too. Put your mask on yourself before assisting others, okay? And you can take that to be on the plane or on the N95, however you want. But we must put that on ourselves first. We must protect ourselves and make sure that we are not doing so much for others that we deplete ourselves. We must make sure we're practicing self-care. It is essential. And then we have Pleiades, which came in the alignment position, which is the reminder that we still have work to do. And even if we can't fix all of it, we still have an obligation to help create that utopia, to help people rise and be better, and to understand that there is so much more to the universe than just what we see in black and white. Because all of this that is shifting and all of this rumbling and all of this drama that we have is all about the creation of the new, excuse me, the new Lemuria, the utopian society that humanity will ultimately evolve to. Not soon enough, but that humanity will ultimately evolve to. And that it's up to us as the light bringers to do our part to make a difference for each one. You know, that if you pick up a starfish and throw it back, you made a difference. You're here, you make a difference. And you, by being here and sharing this video and sharing what you learn here and sharing the light with others, you make a difference. And it is so important. We need the light and the dark, but we don't need them to be at war with each other. And that's really where we are right now. So we are going to see this continued fracturing until there is going to be more of the rising of the light. We need both, but they do not have to be at war. So these are the things that I have been led to share with you today, my friends. I know we went a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but that is okay. I am so delighted and honored to have you here with me and to spend some time with you. And I am so excited to be, I'm going to be going next over to the Psychic Squares to talk about taking the weirdness out of working with a psychic medium. Elias and I spoke this morning, and he said, what should we talk about? And that's something that's been on my mind a bit lately, is taking out the woo-woo. So I'll be over there in a little bit. I don't have an exact time for that yet. But if you like these videos, and you, please continue to share the page, follow me on my YouTube page, and then also be sure, those of you who've been waiting for the webinar has been launched. It's going to be later this month, on the 30th, right at the end of the month, and all the information is posted on the page. So the flyer, how you can register. Robin's already registered. Thank you so much. So excited to have you with us, and it's going to be a wonderful event, and I'm so looking forward to it, as it's going to be a lead into some of the classes we've got coming up as well. And if you want more information about the webinar, this is the Empathic Understanding webinar. This was the most requested. Everyone said, please do this one first. So we do have the Empathic Understanding webinar has been launched. If you'd like to be added to my email list directly, you can fill out the contact form on my website at sharidworkinsmith.com, or you can just message me directly through this page, and I'd be delighted to add you to my website, so you'll know, to my email list, so you'll know everything that's going on. But our webinar has launched, and we'd love for you to enroll and come and join us and spend some time with us on July 30th. And thank you so much for spending some time today, for being with me. Have a beautiful, safe, healthy, virus-free, love-filled rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday night right here for meditation. And then I'll be over on the Psychic Medium Squares page in a little bit, talking about taking the woo-woo out of the metaphysical. So have a fantastic rest of your day. If you have questions about the woo-woo, join me over there, and please feel free to post your questions. And thank you so much for being with us for Cards of the Week. Mwah. Have a great rest of your day.